Imagine some of the history's hardest people. Imagine your John Joneses, your Royce Gracies, your Mike Tysons, big, hard, scary bastards. If I was to tell you, if your life depended on it, could you lay a hand on that person just once? Just once. Now, if you're unarmed, you might land it once, but they'll definitely beat or choke you to death. But if you can lay just one hand on a high-performance, murdering athlete, someone like a Mike Tyson, if you could just touch them once, if you can touch them, you can stab them. And if you can do that, that gives you a really scary insight into the leveling power of something like a blade. A blade can change the game immensely, whether it's something like this out of someone's mum's kitchen drawer, all the way through to all manner of short, sharp flip knives, folders, and anything in between, screwdrivers included. These change the game hugely. And it doesn't matter who you are, you might think it's easy to beat up a 12-year-old, and it might be. You put this in the hands of that 12-year-old, that 12-year-old's threat, that 12-year-old's capability, capacity for violence, ability to inflict damage on you has suddenly magnified immensely, immensely. And that's what makes things like this really dangerous. They level playing fields no matter who you are. Now, some stats to begin with, and these are from the Ben Kinsella Trust. So, 46% increase in violent knife crime in England and Wales between 2012 and now. So it's nearly 50% increase in knife crime in that short period of time. That is phenomenal and scary. 49,000 police recorded offences using a knife or a sharp instrument in the 12 months leading to March 2022. So just in the past year alone, that's nearly 50,000 instances of knife crime. And those are just a small percent, because those are the ones that have been recorded by police. Imagine how much more knife crime and knife carrying there is out there. 50,000 in the past year alone. And in the past year alone, there's been a 10% increase in knife crime in England and Wales from March 2021 to March 2022. 10%. So that's 10%, you know, in the midst of that 50% growth over the past 10 years. That is scary, 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 scary numbers. And it's really important that you take that on board when you look at a self-protection strategy, that, you know, something like this can change an entire game. And it's really important to devote at least some portion of your time and your thinking and your training to an eventuality that includes something like this, no matter how unpleasant that is to imagine. And a lot of people, they talk about, oh, there's no such thing as knife defense. And to a large degree, I agree with them. You know, it's very difficult to defend yourself against a blade. But people do it. People do it every day of the week, every week of the year, to more or less a degree. So what I'm looking at the moment is hosting a seminar in Norwich on the 12th of November. And what I'm really going through there is what I like to call knife mitigation strategy. So it's not necessarily your classic knife defense of, a mugger has you like this or like this. That kind of stuff is included, but that's really the least of the question. I like to use the term knife mitigation because that's exactly what it is. What can you do to stack the odds in your favour to survive a knife attack? And that's what we'll be looking at, and that's what we'll be exploring at that seminar. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of the details with you. So it's in Norwich, 12th of November. I've got details on my Facebook page and on my Instagram page, or just message me if you want to find out more. But some of the topic and areas we'll be covering will be situational awareness and avoidance, how to avoid being in the places where this will likely happen in the first place, how to verbally de-escalate so that it might not move into a situation when people feel compelled or able to draw that blade. We'll be looking at escape and how to use things like environmental barriers, obstacles. You know, is it a good idea to run or is it not a good idea to run? We'll be looking and pressure testing that in our little lab. We'll be looking at crime patterns and case studies of usage. So we'll be looking at real recorded crimes and how people are setting people up, how people are drawing, how people are using the blade, and trying to draw some conclusions about particular endemic trends that come about when people are using the blade. We'll be looking at strategies to prevent the draw, prevent access. So looking at where people typically hold or hide their blades and what to do to prevent them being able to access it when it comes to preemptive striking, jamming the draw, all this types of stuff too. We'll be looking at uses of defensive objects. Defensive objects, essentially something you can put between you and the knife, whether that's a backpack, chair, sign, whatever that may be, a defensive object, something you can put in betwixt you and the stabby thing. We're looking at improvised weapons. What could you pick up and use to level that playing field a little bit more? We'll be looking at counter weapon hard skills. So if you can't get a defensive object, if you can't escape, if you can't de-escalate, what can you do with the things that God has given you to make yourself a little bit safer? How can you control and wrap that attacking arm? What can you do to inflict damage whilst mitigating the chances of you being stabbed? And we'll be looking at exploring those. Those are essentially the shit or bust techniques. When you're looking at empty hands versus knife, you ideally want to be implementing the escape, the avoidance, the de-escalation, the preemption, the defensive objects. If all of those things have escaped you, you're in pretty hot water, my friend. But we'll be looking at what can you do? What can you do? We'll be looking at basic self-triage, how to assess after that situation might be over, the damage that you might have or the damage that might be on others, and things you can do to keep yourself alive a little bit longer before you seek medical attention. I'll also be looking at some of the legal ramifications, looking at things like witness coaching, looking at things like making statements and where to go to get that specialist knowledge. And that'll be the same with the medical areas too. We'll be giving you a little taster of stuff, but where can you go and who can you go to acquire that specialist knowledge? No one is an expert in all things, but what I wanted to build in this seminar is really reinforce the notion of knife mitigation strategies, layered defenses, each layer increasing your survivability by some few small percentage points. And that's what we're looking at, how to stack the odds in your favour to survive and thrive in the face of what is an increasing, growing, endemic use of crime with a knife in England and Wales. So we'll be really factoring that in, exploring it and using lots of real life case studies, stories, evidence to build those techniques, those tactics, those approaches around. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun, should be interesting. It's going to be a really thought-provoking seminar and encourage you to go away and do much more of this with your own clubs elsewhere. Go speak to other people, explore other things. But really, I want this to be a thought-provoking seminar for you because, like I mentioned, if there's been nearly 50,000 instances of it in the past year, it's worth some small amount of attention. So you'll be able to find the booking details on the Facebook page. Come join us, come explore, ask some questions, experiment, and hopefully you find it a very useful day. I know I'm looking forward to delivering it and sharing it with you. So hopefully see you there. I've been Tommy Moore. See you later.